Okay, it's Mike again, and I'm going to do some more reading out of. Um, we'll do the comparison reading of the book of Revelation from the KJV and the Young's literal translation. I'm going to start this time with the Young's literal translation, and we're chapter 8. All praise and glory to you, Abba Father, Jehovah, and to our Lord and Savior, King of Kings, the Alpha and Omega, the first and the last, Jesus the Christ. Thank you for everything that you've given us, God, and have mercy on us, our neighbors, our children, our community. Protect us from the evil ones, the evil of this world, and save us. Be our Savior, Lord God. For you are everything. All praise and glory go to you. I ask you to watch over Brandon. I know he's having some issues. Lord God Almighty, Jesus, please. Jehovah, please. Heavenly Father, please help Brandon and help him to find, if he needs to find a better place, help him to find a better place. Better place to work for him and his wife, and help him to grow and in you, Lord Jesus. Thy will be done. Also bless Marley, bless my son Chase, bless my son's mother and all those involved in his side, her side. God help her. Please help her. Save her. And save my son. Have mercy on us. And anybody else that hears this, please bless them a million times more than me, God. And I sincerely mean that. All praise and glory to you, Lord God Almighty. Chapter 8. The book of Revelation, Young's literal translation. And when he openeth the seventh seal, there came silence in the heaven about a half an hour. And I saw the seven messengers who before God have stood, and there were given to them seven trumpets. It was interesting right now. Half an hour. Now, one of the things that's interesting about that is that knowing how a lot of, at times, is it literally just a half an hour? You know, if we learn that as 1,000 years is a day, as a day is 1,000 years to the Lord, that our time is not necessarily their time. It obviously represents not exactly what he would say like the lightning from the east to the west, bang, there you are, but it's not really a long length of time, is it? Is it literally a half an hour, or is it emphasizing the fact that it is a very short period of time? Well, I guess there's no reason to think that it's not, but then again, based on what we're doing with the translation of it, and from English, is it really a half an hour? That's a good question to ask. I saw the seven messengers once again, which are the seven angels and KJV, and the seven trumpets. It was there that they given them the seven trumpets, and another messenger did come, and he stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there were given to him much perfume, and that he may give it to the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar that is before the throne. And go up and did the smoke of the perfume of the prayers of the saints out of the hand of the messenger before God, and the messenger took the censer and did fill it out of the fire of the altar, and did cast it to the earth, And there came voices and thunders and lightnings and earthquake. And an earthquake. And the 7 messengers who are having the 7 trumpets did prepare themselves that they may sound. And the first messenger did sound, and there came hail, fire, mingled with blood, and it was cast to the land, and 1/3 of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. And the second messenger did sound, and as it were a great mountain with fire burning was cast into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood, and died, and did 1/3 of the creatures that are in the sea, and those having life, and 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. And the third messenger did sound, and there fell out of the heaven a great star, burning as a lamp, and it did fall upon 1/3 of the rivers, and upon the fountains of water. And the name of the star is called Wormwood, and 1/3 of the water it doth become wormwood, and many of the men did die of the waters, because they were made bitter. And a fourth messenger did sound, and was smitten as 1/3 of the sun, and 1/3 of the moon, and 1/3 of the stars. Now remember, this is something that was shortly to come to pass, and it's something that was going to happen during John's lifetime. Now some say this is all very Hebraic symbology. Just might be. It also could have actually literally happened, and they have systematically, over these many hundreds and possibly 2 millennia, they've gone way out of their way to hide this truth from us. And it wouldn't be that difficult to erase the truth or the history of what happened then. All you'd have to do is just not stop writing about it, or remove all the writing of it. Well, let's look how difficult it is just 50 years from now. How it takes the historians and a lot of effort and honest to give them an honest, historical, accurate account to say what happened in World War II. And if you try to do it, you will never be on the books about the shelves of Barnes and Noble. And there's a good chance even on Amazon that you might have a hard time selling your book. So just imagine what it must have been like 200 years ago. Even more difficult in order to give a true, accurate account of what was going on. Now imagine 2,000 years ago. How easy it would be to erase from the memory of people what happened by simply not, and you wouldn't even have to lie, you just not tell the story. These are things to think about. So we're here, and the moon and 1/3 of the stars that darkened may be 1/3 of them, and I don't know if that's saying right. And the day may not shine, and 1/3 of it in the night in like manner. And I saw and heard one messenger flying in mid-heaven, saying with a great voice, Woe, woe, woe to those dwelling upon the land, for the rest of the voices of the trumpet of the 3rd messenger who are about to sound. So that's chapter 8 in Young's literal translation. Now we'll go to Revelation. And close that, get out of the way. Revelation 8, King James Version. It's hot in here. Oof. I can't leave the windows open because it's raining and the humidity. I don't know if I need to turn down the AC or not. Alright, chapter 8. And when he had opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour. And I saw 7 angels, which stood before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. And another angel came and stood at the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense, which came with the prayers of the saints, ascended up before God of the angels, out of the angel's hand. And the angel took the censer and filled it with fire of the altar and cast it into the earth. And there were voices and thunderings and lightnings and an earthquake. And the 7 angels, which had the 7 trumpets, prepared themselves to sound. And the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood. And they were cast upon the earth, and a third part of the trees was burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. Now, a lot of people say, especially, say that this is all just Hebrew symbology, comes straight out of inspired by the Old Testament, and that certainly can be the case, and saying that this is not what literally happened, but you and I were not there, and there's no reason to assume, if this place was flooded with a great flood, that something like this could also happen as well, literally. So there's a great debate. I have no problem that it's both symbolic and it literally did happen. Only time will tell, and either in this life God will reveal it to me for some reason, or in the next life God will be merciful and will reveal it to me and everyone else who so desires to know the truth of this. But it seems to me that is a high probability and a great possibility that both its Hebraic symbology from the Old Testament and that it literally did happen in Israel and Judea and around Jerusalem and that region of the earth or the land. Remember, you have to keep this in context, and I was bringing it up over and over again. That makes it very specific to John and the 7 churches of Asia. There's something that's shortly to come to pass. It's starting to happen, not 2,000 years later. This is something we have to come to terms with. Does it make me happy to make other people unhappy about this? And I'm not trying to kill your faith in the Word. I'm really trying to strengthen your faith in the Word and in Jesus. That what He said and did really did happen, and that there's nothing for us as true Christians to be ashamed of that fact. And then now it brings all a new set of questions, but you know what? When you realize the good news that He did fulfill all things, we should be very, very grateful. That's how I see it. But anyways, my faith is in Jesus, not in a futuristic second coming. It's in Jesus. Anyways, and a third part of the trees were burnt up, and all the grass was burnt up. And the second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with fire, was cast into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood. I notice a lot of my brothers who are very intellectually astute and endowed, they have a hard time with the spiritual side of things. I understand that. I can see that. For better or worse, for I've have experience with the spiritual things. I've seen it firsthand. Whether you believe it or not, it does make a difference of what I actually experienced. So. And I'm not alone. There are millions of other people who have had similar spiritual experiences one way or the other. So, and it's not no psychosomatic, and it's not something of my imagination. So, as Christians, we have to deal with this. It's funny. Many of the Christians who are futuristic in their beliefs about the second coming and all that have no problem with the spiritual side of things, but have a real problem about the fact that Jesus fulfilled all things. Yeah, I know. So I just I just ask you to have an open mind, read the book for what it says, and as time goes on, yeah, there'll be a lot of connections with the words in the Revelation to many of the books in the Old Testament. And when we get around to reading the Old Testament, certainly we'll start to see it. The second angel sounded, and as it were a great mountain burning with a fire. Fire was cast into the sea, and a third part of the sea became blood. And a third part of the creatures which were in the sea and had life died, and a third part of the ships were destroyed. And a third angel sounded, and there fell a great star from heaven, burning as it was a lamp, and it fell upon a third part of the rivers and upon the fountains of waters. And the name of the star was Wormwood, and the third part of the waters became wormwood, and many men died of the waters, because they were made bitter. The fourth angel sounded, and a third part of the sun was smitten. This is very interesting. If it's simply symbology, that's okay. Even the symbology doesn't quite make all that sense, as much as you want to believe that it is. As much as people want to believe that it is. But if it literally the sun was really a third part of the sun was smitten, it would be quite a sight. And a third part of the moon. I mean, look at this moon and what it looks like. It does look like something was hitting it from our direction with all those craters. Not saying it's so, but I'm just saying it looks that way. Something happened from our direction. And a third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened. And the day shone not, a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, 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 to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trump of the three angels, which are yet to sound. Chapter 9. Now this time we'll start with chapter 9 in the KJV, and then we'll go back over to Young's little translation. The fifth angel sounded, and I saw the star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened up the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit, and the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air was darkened by the reason of the smoke of the pit. That could be very symbolic. It's also going to be, if we talk about Hades, or we call hell, and the opening of this where the hell was, the bottomless pit. It's just saying, could be. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as scorpions on the earth, and have power. Now, I know in the Gospels, Jesus calls the high priests of Israel, Judea, scorpions. Are we talking something similar to this, where they had the ability to do with that which they did back then, or throughout the 40-year period where they were killing, looks like tens of thousands of Israelites. Yeah, I mean, I believe this happened, and a lot of people say this is all strictly symbolic, but I think that this more than can possibly happen. But the understanding of the symbology fully, some say these are demons that were unleashed in the bottomless pit. Although I don't know why demons would be in the bottomless pit. I think they were all around him to begin with. Yeah. Are these part of this resurrection? Of the reaping of the wheat from the tares type of thing. Tares would be like scorpions. No, would they? Okay. These are just speculation on my part. But something we know from already this is supposed to happen shortly during John's lifetime, and that the 7 churches of Asia are supposed to expect this. Okay? So we know this much. We can argue until we're blue in the face with this is real or not. This is all just symbolic or not. But this is what it says. I'm going with both, once again, that it's symbolic and literal. The understanding, though, fully. Yeah. And it was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but that those men. Well, this is interesting, and there's an observation I'm starting to make when it comes to spiritual realm here. Connection with trees, green things, grass. And if time goes on, I'll share with that. This is not biblical, per se, but I am noticing something going on with the trees and the spirits that I've filmed and I've seen. And the grass and green things. Yeah. There's a lot more to the story and that we live in. Much, much more deeper than you and I at this point. We've been so sheltered, so imprisoned, so boxed in this not so brave new world, the new world order, that it's hard for us to see anymore what was just a few generations ago. Let alone 40 generations ago, allegedly. Yes, sirree. But only those men which have not the seal of God in their forehead. Now this goes back now to the tares, those who rejected Jesus and the gospel and Jesus. Those are the tares, and also those to the great falling away that went back into Judaism and fell away from their first love, which is Jesus. And it was promised that would happen because there's a long period, 40 years, a generation, and God's long suffering. He was going to make sure that every single one of His elect was saved. That was a promise that He made, and I believe He fulfilled it. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And they were and their torment was as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh the man. Is this the conscience? Is this the realization of their rejection of Jesus? Is this the spiritual realm tormenting them and putting it in their heads as well, reminding them? Are they becoming demon possessed, as they would say? This would end up leading them into killing each other. Literally, cannibalism was happening. Literally, that's what Josephus says. Allegedly, Josephus says that. In those days shall men seek death, and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. Starvation, famines, wars, being tormented by these what we call demonic spirits, or whatever they are. And the shape of the locusts were like unto the horses prepared unto battle, and their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were the faces of men. Is this a possibility of something that came out of Hades? to judge men during that time period, to torment spiritually, which is it would affect them intellectually and emotionally and spiritually and physically. And they had the hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were the teeth of lions. And those of us who have filmed some of these entities that are out there in spirits, they come in all shapes and sizes. And we call them demonic, we call them evil, we call them unclean spirits, we call them whatever we want to call them, but they aren't all that good. They seem not to have the best interest for us. And they had breastplates, and as it were, the breastplates of iron. And the sound of their wings had as the sound of chariots, and many horses running to battle. And they had tails like unto scorpions, and there were stings in their tails. And their power was to hurt men 5 months. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, is in Hebrew's name, and the name whose name in Hebrew, in the Hebrew tongue, is Abaddon, which in the Greek tongue, his name is Apollyon. One woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. And the 6th angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the 4 horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the 6th angel, which had the trumpet, loose the 4 angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. Now, these are bound in the great river Euphrates. This is simply symbolic. Some people say this has to do with the unleashing of the Euphrates dried up, and a lot of the Roman legions were able to cross over the Euphrates in order to help them help surround all of Jerusalem. And then again, and the 4 angels were loosed, and which were prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year to slay a 1/3 part of men. These men would have to be in Israel, in the regions, Judea and Jerusalem and all those cities and towns and the hamlets and everything else around about. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000 thousands. Now this is another great example of the use of thousands, the number thousands, and some people say the millennia, which is no millennia in the Bible, in the book of Revelation. But does one really believe that these army of horsemen were 200,000 thousands? Would you like to do the math on that? And it's a great way of emphasizing once again 200,000 of a whole heck of a lot of these dudes. And I heard the number of them. Just like it says 1,000 years reign, and we get to that in chapter 20. Just remember this in chapter 9, and also it's 2 Peter, I believe it is 3:8, whatever it is. It's just 3:8 something. But a day is 1,000 years is a day to the Lord, is a day is 1,000 years, or whatever. Same thing with whatever, however you say it. So. Okay, and I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them, having breastplates of fire, and jaketh, and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as the heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. And they're going to pass judgment on Israel, the tares. By these 3 were the 1/3 part of men killed. Let's remember one thing, is the Jews, and those who weren't Jewish and were not part of the Jewish nation and religion, they didn't consider them men. They only saw themselves as men. That's something It was pretty. They're pretty racist by this point. And the third, and these three was a third part of men killed, and by fire and by smoke and by brimstone, which issued out of their mouths. Some say that this has something to do with the catapults and what they threw into the shot into Jerusalem. Maybe so. Maybe it's something completely different. Once again, very symbolic but spiritual. That it manifests itself in a physical form in many different ways. For their power was in their mouth and in their tail, and their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads, and with them they do hurt. And the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, which is a real giveaway, plagues, yet repented not of their works of their hands, that they should not worship devils, idols of gold and silver and brass and stone and wood, which neither can see nor hear nor walk. And we know that at this point, or this seems at this point, that most of Israel had become totally corrupt. Remember, following the synagogue of Satan, and they're putting their faith literally in the temple and idols, idolatry, totally rejecting Jesus. So. And neither repented they that murdered, nor of sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. And yeah, let's remember that the vast majority of people, the followers of Jesus, were murdered by Jews during this time, and they were practicing sorcery, deceiving the nations, the kindreds and tongues, and there was fornication, spiritual fornication with their worshiping of devils and of, as it says here, of gold and silver and brass and stone, idols made of this, and they were thieving, they were stealing from the people. Then on top of that, then you have the Romans. A lot of people feel this is the Romans. I don't believe it's the Romans. I believe this has everything to do with the Jewish hierarchy and Judaism. Is that how you pronounce it? The Jewry of that day. So, anyways, let's see where we're at with this. I am burning up. I'm gonna take a break here and turn down the heat and see if that helps. Okay, now we're in Young's Literal Translation, chapter 9. Man, I heard the weirdest thing when I was out on the front porch. It sounded like a cross between crickets and cicadas. It's really weird. Anyways. The fourth messenger did sound, and I saw a star out of heaven having fallen to the earth. And there was given to the key it was given to it the key of the pit of the abyss. No, it says here's the pit of the abyss. So the bottomless pit, the pit of the abyss. And he did open the pit of the abyss, and there came up a smoke out of the pit, as smoke of the great furnace. And darkened was the sun and the air, and from the smoke of the pit, and out of the smoke came forth locusts to the earth, and there was given them the authority as scorpions of the earth, as scorpions of the earth have authority. And it was said to them that they may not injure the green grass of the earth, nor any green thing, nor the trees, but the men only who have not the seal of God upon their foreheads. And it was given to them that they may not kill them, but that they may be tormented 5 months and their torment is as the torment of a scorpion, and when it may strike a man. And in those days men shall seek the death, and they shall not find it, and they shall desire to die. They shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. And the likeness of the locusts are like to horses made ready to battle, and upon their heads as crowns like gold, and their faces the faces of men. And they had hair as the hair of women, and their teeth were as those of lions. Very symbolic. And they had a breastplate as the breastplate of iron, and the nose of their wings, the noise of their wings, is the noise of chariots, as many horses running to battle. And they have tails like to scorpions, and to sting, and the stings were in their tails, and their authority is to injure men 5 months. And they have over them a king, a messenger of the abyss. A name is to him in Hebrew Abaddon, and in Greek he hath the name Apollyon. The first woe did go forth, and lo, there came yet 2 woes after these things. And the 6th messenger did sound, and I heard a voice out of the 4 horns of the altar of gold that is before God, saying to the 6th messenger who hath the trumpet, loose the 4 messengers who are bound at the great river Euphrates. And loose were the 4 messengers who have been made ready for an hour, a day, a month, and a year. Is that literally the exact time, or is that emphasizing I don't know. But I guess we'll say it is so. That they may kill 1/3 of men, and the number of the forces of the horsemen is 2 myriad of myriads. So this time, instead of 200,000 thousands, is 2 myriads of myriads, whatever that means. And I heard a number of them, and I saw the horse in the vision, and those sitting upon them, having the breastplate of fire and of Japheth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses are as heads of lions, and out of their mouth proceeded fire and smoke and brimstone. By these 3 were the 1/3 of men killed, from the fire and from the smoke and from the brimstone that is proceeding out of their mouths. And their authorities are in their mouth and in their tails, and for their tails are like serpents, having heads, and with them they do injure. And the rest of the men who were not killed in these plagues neither did reform from the works of their hands, that they may not bow before demons and idols, and those of gold, and those of silver, and those of brass, and those of stone, and those of wood, that are neither able to see, nor hear, nor walk. Yea, they did not reform from their murders, from their sorceries, for their whoredoms, and from their thieves. Okay. There's a lot to unpack there, and I don't know if we're going to be able to really do it any justice, except to say that It seems to me this is the beginning of that 3.5 years of the second half of the great Great Tribulation. And all, but if Paul's right, if Jesus is right, excuse me, if John is right and Jesus is right, and the angels are right, then this is something that's shortly to come to pass in John's lifetime. Yes, indeed. A lot of it seems to be very symbolic. A lot of it seems to be a lot of Hebrew symbolism, but also I think it also suggests that there was a serious spiritual battle happening, in which the Satan, along with the demonic forces that followed him, were at war with God's angels and God's people, and they were, and also passing judgment on all those people in particular who did not have to seal their foreheads, who did not accept Jesus. During that time, in Israel, in Jerusalem, in Judea, and areas round about. I know it's hard to believe, and everyone thinks it's going to happen in the future, but Jesus made it very clear that he was coming shortly. He was emphatic about it. He also said this is going to happen in their generation, so we have to accept it. We have to either accept what he says, or we have to accept what other people say. He did that. He was wrong, and if he was wrong, then I don't know how we can possibly say he was God. So we got a lot of dilemmas there and a lot of issues there to deal with. I don't know if we'll get all the answers that we want in the Old Testament, understanding all these things, but I think from the Olivet Discourses, along with this, that we're talking about the same thing. This is the judgment of Jerusalem. This is the judgment of Judea, of the Israelites who rejected Jesus. Okay, saying all that, I think it's time to quit this recording, and we'll keep plugging along tomorrow and get all that done. As far as we get as much done as we can, I should say, as far as reading the book of Revelation, doing a comparison reading between Young's literal translation and the KJV.